Hello, SimTheWorld here, bringing you a review of the game Accident. If you're looking to purchase this game in the near future, you won't want to miss this video. So where to start? Let's start with what the game Accident is. If you look at Steam, the bio description says, become a journalist who researches old car accident cases, help victims, and perform first aid. Obtain evidence and reconstruct the events to discover what really happened. Sounds pretty interesting, right? Looks like quite a few people think so as well. At least 37 of them. Having played through the entire game and did a playthrough series on our channel in the past, I think I do have the experience to relay some thoughts, some constructive criticisms about the game, and some things you should know before you make that purchase. Let's dive in. So when you start playing the game, you load up into an office where they explain to you that you are a journalist. You use this VR headset, which takes you and plants you in the position of the first person who arrived at the scene of an accident. And from there, you play through performing the first aid, performing whatever needs to be done. And then after that is completed, once the ambulances arrive and the first responders take care of everything, then it's your job as a journalist to reconstruct how the accident was caused. So it's pretty interesting. They've got 9 different scenarios to play through. Each scenario takes about 15-20 minutes, so there's a decent amount of content in the game. And each scenario is really creative. I will give them credit that they took their time. Nothing feels repeated, nothing feels generic. It's a very interesting game. However, interesting does not always make for a good game. And in this case, that's about the depth of the creativity in the scenarios, the look of the game for that matter. It looks really good. But that's about it. And in fact, the rest of the game itself kind of detracts from these great characteristics it has. So my criticisms of the game stem directly from the game mechanics. It is a very linear game. You have no choices, really. There are no incorrect choices that have consequences. You must perform task A to go to task B. If you don't perform it quickly enough or in the right manner, you go back to task A and have to repeat until you do it correctly. When you get all of the emergency scenarios completed, all the care given to the victims in the proper order, in the proper way, you then go to the area where you click on the different squares to line up and figure out how the accident occurred. But even in this, there are no wrong answers. You can slap those squares in any way you want, and you won't be able to progress with the rest of the game until you line it up the way it goes. They don't even tell you that the way you put it in is wrong. It just won't proceed until you're right. So being so linear, there really isn't any replayability in the game. You go through it once, you get the story, you get the gist of it, and you're done. The only reason that I would go back and reinstall this game is if new content were to come on, if they add more scenarios. But even then, I might reconsider. To be clear, I played through all 9 scenarios. We posted them up on our channel. I'd feel a little bad because based on how linear this game is, you can go watch the game right now. But I don't feel that bad because, no one's watched the video, so they haven't lost any money from people not buying the game because of it. And I think even though there are positive reviews on Steam, I think it does speak to the game itself that there are only 37 players that reviewed it. It's an interesting game, and now, I'm going to stop roasting it now. It's a graphic game. It's a tough topic for a lot of people, so you want to do it right, which I think they did approach it correctly. You're providing EMT care, you're jumping in there, you're doing the good stuff, but there's no game to it. There's no game aspects to it. What I think really occurred was the developers of this EMT experience developed this platform for training. I bet they had this as a training module that they're going to market to different EMT courses or maybe high schools, things like that, as an educational resource. However, they're unable to sell it to those in the educational space. So, to not lose money in this endeavor of creating this game or this educational tool that obviously no one bought for training purposes, they laid on this gimmick of you're a journalist going in and having to figure out what happened in the accidents. So I truly believe this was meant to be an educational tool that they just could not sell in that space. It's creative. I think it would have went well, especially in a high school or something, or even a middle school, where if you could do it in VR, if you could do some of the scenarios, I think that would be a great introduction to some of the first aid, what to do when you arrive at the scene of an accident, things that could save people's lives. But by putting on this journalistic scenario gimmick, you kind of lose that charm. You lose what you're trying to do as an educational tool. And as far as a game where you have to investigate, I think that's a bold-faced lie. It's not a game. It's a linear story. So, the game's listed on Steam for $14.99. I would not pay that. And in fact, I did not pay that. I got some sort of discount. I think I paid like $8 for the game. And even that, in my opinion, was a little too much. If you can find the game on sale for like half off, if you can find it for like $5, I think that'd be a good buy. It'd be something to pass the time. If you have a small child or somebody who would be interested in learning about this in a really tame manner. I don't think it's very graphic, blood and gore wise. It does introduce, more difficult topics, so maybe the young crowd you'd steer away from. But as a young teen or something like that, maybe this is a tool that could be used to introduce, hey, you're going to be on the road soon. These are things you want to know. Do you have a first aid kit in the back of your car? Do you know where that's located? What about a flare? What about a sign? These are all topics that are worth discussing. But not in a game. Not in a game. I think if you want to do some sort of journalistic investigator game in this manner, they could have did it in such a way that it wasn't just... They could have either gone the EMT route where, if you saw some of our gameplay over Firefighting Simulator, you jump in the car, you jump in the squad, you get in the ambulance and drive that to the scene of the accident, you rush out, there's different types of patients, it's random, different scenarios where you go in, you provide care, but maybe there's a time limit, maybe there is procedures you have to follow, but there's a pass or fail criteria to that. And there's consequences for either doing it correctly or not. You could do it in that way, or I think they could have gone a different route where it really was more of a puzzle game. And instead of perhaps accidents, maybe those were sprinkled in. Instead, they could have focused maybe more on murders or something where you really do have to dig through clues, you have to do some research, what makes the most sense. But the combination of the two in such the manner really did not work for me. and I don't know how many people have really bought the game, but I don't think it's worked for a lot of people either. I could be wrong. And if you feel that I am wrong, if you've played the game and have thought it's really great, be sure to let me know that down in the comments below, because I'd really like to hear that. I'd like to hear what your opinions are of this game, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'd rather be honest with what I thought, going through it, playing through. I felt there's a lot of ways it could have been improved and more of a game for the user instead of just a gimmicky educational tool. So, I'm not going to rant forever about this. I hope this was helpful if you're looking to purchase this game, or if you're just interested in what it is. If you do want to see a couple of the scenarios, jump over to our playlist playing through the entire series of Accident. I won't tell you don't have to pay for it and you could just watch the series, but you could do that. But thanks for watching as I simulate my life one game at a time. If you like this video, please be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the future action. You can follow on Twitter for updates of future games being played, as well as follow on Twitch as I try to stream 3 days a week. Thanks, and I'll see you next time at SimTheWorld.